Okay. Well, because I don't know that we'll do an intro to this, we can just kind of do it right now. Typically, we'll do an intro for these things. And in that, all we do is explain what the person's going to see. But because you're here, I can just kind of explain it in front of you and them at the same time.
Right on.
Well, first off, we should start off with who we're talking to.
Well, that's what the intro is, fucking asshole. God.
Well, I thought you were gonna go off and talk about like. I thought you were gonna go and like talk about like me and you.
No, if you'd given me a chance, I would have.
Right. I underestimated you. I underestimated you.
Like you always do. Well, our guest for today is someone that I've been wanting to get on since the beginning of the podcast. Since I wrote down, since the very idea of doing this came out of us thinking that Houston didn't necessarily have the most, well, no, really didn't have any. If it wouldn't be just a couple mediums or platforms for people to come and talk about their art, talk about their creativity in an unfiltered kind of just relaxed way. I felt like that didn't exist. It wasn't there. And that there were so many people to talk to that was kind of just a travesty. And a lot of them are my friends. I'm like, God, I know these people. I see them all the time. And your music, the music that you've made over the past, I guess now in Houston, it's what, 15 years?
Yeah, about 15 years.
15 plus years, perhaps?
I don't know. 15 years might be right.
Yeah.
Is easily one of the main reasons as to why we started doing this. Because I felt like I want to hear from these people. Because, first of all, By the End of Tonight it's still one of my favorite bands of all time.
Still, I jam that shit at work.
When I was like a 14, 15-year-old at Reagan High School, and me and David were like, let's start a band. The band that we were listening to that was inspiring us every day was By the End of Tonight. We would put on the Fireworks and ICP, and like it was from beginning to end, we would turn it up as loud as we can, and we would just go to jam practice and try to like rip off everything on that album. Just because like we wanted to be as heavy, as fast, as gnarly, as like quote unquote mathy. Like everything that band was doing was resonating so hard with what we were going through, and like being punk kids. I didn't want to play punk, but wanted to play music as heavy as it and as weird and creative. And that was a punk band, but that wasn't, So my past journey for the past 10 years, whether it be me trying to be in a band and be a musician or me trying to do this podcast, can always kind of be traced back to a weird little seed that has started with music that you've made. When we first started doing this podcast, one of the first bands that we went together and saw at Summerfest after being credentialed, or not even bands, was Lem.
Yep.
And so before we really get into this, I just want you to know how important you are, not only to me, but to Houston music and the scene here, because you've done so much maybe without even realizing it. Just in existing and making music, continue to do it. Your set this year, past year, Day for Night, was fucking ridiculous. It was like both of them, first of all, they were life-changing. Like you're doing these things that are pushing the scene forward, and then doing it again a couple years later, and then doing it. So just how exciting it is for us to have you on is
even as a podcast, like we were trying to document people who are doing shit in this town, whatever. And talk about some pioneers, man. Now, you guys have been doing it since like 2003, or essentially, and so you kind of set the bar for a lot of the like friends that we have that are going out there and create music and
because a lot of it happened only because we saw our homies doing it. You're like, oh, our friends doing, why not? Right. So thanks for being on. Thanks for being on, man.
Having me, and I really appreciate the kind words.
It's an honor. It's frankly just been a long time coming to sit down and have a conversation with you and the things that you've been doing. So it only makes sense kind of for me to start from the beginning. It's cool for me to find out that this band started out of kind of your first band, right? I mean, this is kind of like you're like, well,
By the End of Tonight is my first band for sure.
That's amazing. That's so cool to me.
Yeah.
My questions about it though are what led to the sounds By the End of Tonight, because it ended up being such a very like a formative and important band in the quote unquote like math rock genre. You and sister / brother band, I don't know what you call them, Terramellos.
Oh yeah,
we're just like tearing up that scene that you were inadvertently creating. So what was going into the making of that, and how did y'all get to that point?
Well, it's funny, you were talking about us earlier during the intro, and that's exactly how we felt about the kind of music this dude Jim had brought to us. He was bringing us like Rimasaki, Hella, Dilute. He's again Botch, like just shit I never would have dilute, like shit I never would have like gone down the road and found, you know, especially because it was largely instrumental, you know, and at the time, that was just like not something I was searching for. So he came and then showed us this, and we're like, well, fuck, like, how do you sound like this? And then honestly, like, we lived in Alvin, and this was, I didn't have a fucking computer, do you know, like I was really late to that stuff, and so we were smart fucking kids in a town full of not very smart people and not imaginative people, I should say. That's a nicer, I think, more accurate thing to say. It's okay. But not very imaginative people. And so we were like dying for something to do. So like really starting a band was like the thing. And honestly, and other things that kids do in small towns when they're bored is like fucking do drugs. And so like have babies and then kill themselves too early. And so like we didn't want to be any part of that. So we just like, you know, we just wanted to like make music. So Josh Smith, who was in the band at the time, his parents were for some fucking reason just like really like down to let us jam in the garage, and like so we just like that's what, as soon as
there's always like one parent of the band that's just down.
This is like totally down, and I don't know why, man. And they were so sweet about it, but you know we were all quick. We would finish all our homework in high school before we even like left school, and then like as soon as we were off school, we went to his house and we got high and we made By the Tonight. We made it in the Letter of the Sandbox.
So
in that garage. And,
really?
Yeah.
That shit.
And so
but hold up though, because the music that you're making it's almost like, did you know what you were doing? Because I know that sounds like a dumb question, but the kind of writing that has to go into writing that kind of music is so technical and weird that what kind of music were y'all jamming for that to come into that? I mean,
you know,
but also how do you pull that up from the garage of an Alvin Texas garage and then bring it into like
because we were big metalheads, you know, like, especially early on. It was like, and again, like what we really learned from that we wanted was that it was just like, it was like, for us, it was nothing we've ever heard of, and it was fast. And it was fucking loud. And then as soon as we got a gist of that, we found something that was faster and louder. We're like, all right, cool, that's fast. So let's do that. And then we found something else that was even faster and louder. And then we're like, oh, they only played that part for like one measure. That's like crazy. Like this was like for us, like everything that was felt absurd or just like fucking out of left field. We were like, that's great.
Let's go for it.
I don't even know if that's good, but let's do that, right? So it's like. We just had this really narrow set of like bands that we were like kind of really wanted to emulate, but also at the time, for us, like we were, it was like our own little, I mean, it probably goes without saying, but none of us liked fucking playing in sports. And like didn't care a fuck about like learning how to be a team player in sport. Like we just none of that. But we did find that kind of camaraderie in By the Tonight, because we were like, all right, hey, cool. Like I learned how to do sweeps. All right, cool. I learned. I'm gonna give me a week, and then I learned how to do sweeps. And like, hey man, I'm learning how to do two-hand
There's
tapping.
like a certain level of competitiveness.
Yeah, but also just like it was the healthiest kind of competitive, and I think that's what really like sold it for me. Is I was like, I played sports as a kid, and I was like, this is shit. Like, this is shit the way that, like, my coach is an asshole. Like, kids are assholes to me. Like, I don't like the way.
Were you ever pressured into going into sports or anything like that?
I mean, I think nothing, like, explicit. You know, like, when you're a boy growing up, like, you think you need to play with, like, lizards and, like, throw a ball at each other. Like, that's what you think you need to do. And so you tried that for a bit. I was like, I did not like that. So... when By the Tonight started like being, and it was just, you know, maybe it's just like some weird, great amalgamation of chemistry that was like, we were great to each other, we were fair to each other, we were like supportive of each other, and then it just became a game to us to be like, cool, I wrote this part. And like, all right, cool, I wrote this part. Like, really, they shouldn't like go into each other, but let's make them somehow. And then it was like, well, I wrote this part. But okay, let's just play it for like a measure.
Yeah, the part that cracks me up, I forget what song it is, but it's when it's like like what are they doing? Like this, I think it's only for that measure.
Well,
and breaks up at the end, like kind of hilarious. Throw it in there because you can. Let's write it because we can make it happen. Is so good and like ADHD. Like for me,
I think it was like let's do it because we can't. Like I think there was a level of being ignorant. Like we were not musicians. No fucking way.
But
like,
yet our writing,
we knew our standard major and minor scales, and we knew like when a notes didn't work. We also knew that sometimes we liked it when the notes didn't work. We just were like, fuck it, like let's just do whatever we want. Like, and so we didn't know where to come from. Like, how do you write a song, right? Like how does that begin? And
you got to go verse, chorus, bridge, chorus.
But it doesn't. No, like what was fun for us was again like Jeff was a leader in a lot of this kind of mathy stuff, what people call it. But he would just like write this beat, just clack 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 clack, and then like
he was a drummer.
Jeff. Yeah. So it was like, all right, cool, we wrote that part, and then it was again it was like Jeff learned that fucking okay. Next time I write a guitar part, it's gonna be a weird rhythm too. So like, and that was our weird competitive like fun thing that we had where, we wrote a song. We would spend like weeks on like 30 seconds of a song, just like trying to like make it as fucking complicated as possible. Like there's a Morse code part that we just like wanted to do a Morse code thing and let it in the sandbox, and I can't remember.
What song is that?
I can't remember. I just remember going through the
motions
motions of learning
part?
it. It might be that part. Yeah, I don't know. Josh wrote that. Josh Smith at the time, and
well, it's just it was one of those first bands. It was actually probably the first band I listened to where I was like, this stuff is fun.
Yeah.
Like, this is driving my car really fast.
Yeah.
And we're like, I mean, it was like I said, it was the music we listened to when we were going to practice and getting pumped up, and trying to play music just like that. So you can attribute it to like, spontaneity, but there's definitely a level of you guys knowing what you're doing. Cause meanwhile, there's other people kind of doing the same thing inadvertently, like Termellos.
Yeah.
So how did you guys find them, and how did you guys become so close? Because I know it kind of became this brother band.
Like, was that the first band I came across that I vibed with? Like, I also kind of what was the scene in this area?
Yeah.
I would imagine that you would have to branch out
in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
The scene in this area at the time was, man, it was when hardcore was king. Like, it was like hardcore
tank shows every weekend. Yeah.
Yes. And so it was like hardcore and thrash and grindcore. Like that's about it.
Right.
And and so people, we could get our foot in there a little bit because we were heavy.
Yeah.
And so, but we weren't always heavy. We were lots of things, like it would be silly. It would be kind of like melodramatic. It would be like, and it would just flip on a dime and then be one or the other again. It's
kind of hard to book a band like that sometimes.
It was hard, but so like we were in a cool place because we got booked with lots of different kinds of people. Like we were playing with a lot of the more like kind of more pop rock kind of sounding stuff, or like we played with punk bands, we played with metal, we played with hardcore, we played all over the spectrum.
It's eclectic enough to like fit into all
like
those
we
bills.
could and I remember Maddie at Hank Tank, she used to always call us the glue. She was like, Valiant Night is the glue. You're the guys that are like, because we're all fractured. Hank Tank only did a certain kind of hardcore, and Hands Up was only booked. Well, they were more diverse and did different things too. But she would call us the glue, that we were kind of melding everyone together, and I kind of really liked that. I also liked being that. Like we also really got off on playing on shows that we didn't belong, right? Like the hardcore guy who's like, he's looking over his shoulders, the next hardcore guy, to see if he likes it before he starts liking it.
Because it kind of makes sense, but does it?
And then fucking give that guy a week, and he's like, shit.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
and he's like, I want to do some gnarly shit like that. And then like all of a sudden, like, because the fuck, like as cool as some hardcore was, like who fucking wants to listen to hardcore all the time, and forever and ever and amen? Like, so it was like,
so I guess y'all are playing these shows, and I mean. It had to have been kind of hard to find a place in the scene that's being dominated by that. But So it had to been relieving to have, Nick and Nathan and those cats find you and be what's up? Like, maybe in the, like, you're not alone kind of way. Like, we're weird too. Hi.
And the way they tell the story is that they try to hit you up and then, or hit you guys up. And then y'all kind of were like,
Well, I can't speak to that because he really hit up Stefan.
Okay.
And I don't really know, but I know that they hit us up because we got that kind of terrible review of Fireworks on Ice, I think. Which is a joke about, oh man, what's his name? The figure skater that started doing all the backflips. What's his name?
Is that
you know what I mean?
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name at all.
Yeah.
He was not even. I don't even think he had a. He's a hard name to remember.
Figure skater.
Figure
Yeah.
skater.
But so, Nick read that review and it got compared to Dillinger and Hella, and so for Nick, he was like,
I'm gonna check it out.
yeah, I'm gonna check this shit out, right? Like, I like that. I like that.
Was it featured on a magazine? Is that what the story was?
It was a Pitchfork review.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it was kind of a bad review from them. But so I don't really know the inner workings. I know that. So we checked them out and obviously became fans because it was. Yeah. It's like, oh shit, this is like us. Like this is like some symbiosis shit, right? Or whatever. Where like this was happening somewhere else on the other part of the world. And then we had a couple songs we were working on at one time. And actually no, this was before that. So we ended up just doing some tours with him. We went to the West Coast and did some tours, and we would kind of do some joint tours where they would book the West Coast, and we would book like
just kind
more
of pull
our
from
area
each other's resources.
pull from each other's resources to book those tours.
That's a really smart way of doing it.
Yeah. So it really helped. And again, like we would headline the shows we booked, they would headline the shows they booked, and like and it immediately was like, oh, these what the fuck? These are like us from over there. We're over, like this was a really weird thing for us, and on all fronts, like musically. And maybe this just has something to say about like how this kind of music is made. It's like the kind of people they are.
Yeah, exactly.
What
goes into
just
it?
like us, right? Like I think they approach it very much the same way, and they think about it the same way, and they came from the same place. And if they weren't making music, we would probably still get along with each other because they're similar like that.
Right, yeah.
Similar things all went into making that music.
Yeah.
So for one reason or another, that band didn't end up really working out for a long-term thing by the end of tonight.
No. So we were young when we started doing By This Night, man. Like we were 15 and 16.
We were babies.
And actually older than that. 15 and 16 is when we got signed to temporary residence.
That's ridiculous.
With Letter to the Sandbox.
Yeah, we're that old when y'all made that?
Yeah.
Jeez, I had no idea.
And we were younger because we had written some of it when we were like 14 and stuff. So,
I gotta say that
like
song,
Stefan was probably 14 when he wrote a lot of that.
That's insane.
And so
a lot of it was based off guitar parts then? Coming off of guitar parts?
The way By the Tonight wrote was like we really would come to practice and be like, hey, I was working on a riff, and like, cool, and we'd like work on parts of that riff, and like, what are we gonna do next? I'm like, I got this. Another person would be like, I got this other riff, or Jeff would be like, I got a drum beat that I worked on. Like, cool, let's just make that happen next. And then that's how it works. And so it got put together like modular. It was like part, then part, then part, then part.
Right.
It was never like that was it. And then we would just like one day we would just like, okay, cool, that's the end of that song. Right, and that's how that was how it would end. And we might show up sometimes like, well, we just found out who Explosions in the Sky and like Terrence Hell and Mogwai. We like found these. We're like, fuck, like this isn't heavy, fast, and loud. But little did we know that Mogwai was actually really fucking loud. But we were like, this is pretty and like somber, and like, but this is fucking cool because we'd never heard this shit before. So like, we would come to practice and be like, let's write a Mogwai jam, and then we'd write a Mogwai part and be like, all right, cool, it's enough of the Mogwai part, let's do like a fucking fast math part out of that, and like so
was it a natural progression from you to go from, I don't know that it was a overnight thing, but by the end of tonight it's in a lot of ways kind of an opposite of Limb, of what you're doing now. And so I want to get a little bit into that process and how you went from being part of this loud as hell band that kind of was in your face and changing directions into being something that is maybe a little more, not necessarily steady, because I know it's equally as punk rock and weird, but maybe a little more jammy, maybe a little more focused on reaction, or I don't know. I mean, obviously we can talk about that, but I want to know how did you get from this to this?
Well, okay, so I was really committed to Bike By Tonight.
Right.
Like I was like, this is it. I've given a lot
it's
to
working.
this. This is working. It could work. And we were young, so probably I was really wrong about whether it could work or not. Because, I remember at the time, Jeremy Devine, who owned Temporary Residence, was like, you guys are the hardest working band on the label, and you're the ones who are the most in debt. Because we would tour a bunch, and we would, we would just, no one fucking cared. I mean, small patches of people cared about that kind of music, but like, we weren't like,
you weren't making money, you weren't sustaining yourself.
No, it really wasn't making sense. And then members in the band wanted to do other things in their lives, and so they did. And then that just started happening. And then I had been started kind of around, I can't remember what age I found Fruity Loops, and I also got into just like Aphex Twin and like and Audubon Scratch and like Dita Shadow, just like some of these guys, and I was like, oh, these are the electronic music versions of like what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Because like, if you just imagine these parts were made in a similar fashion, right? If you just think about it compositionally, like it's almost the same shit, right? And there's all that breakcore shit and that jungle stuff. I was like, oh,
especially with Aphex too.
Yeah,
I think about that now. It makes a lot of sense. He's like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's super.
Yeah,
just out of there, and
that kind of makes sense for me too, because Aphex likes to incorporate a lot of visual elements into his like projects and stuff like that. So when I first heard of Lim, or not heard of Lim, but when I first saw you, I noticed that you were on the lineup for Day for Night, and it was a collaboration with Eric Todd. When I saw you
and Daniel Schaefer.
Okay.
For some reason they didn't put him
Oh,
on
they
the
didn't-
lineup.
Really?
Oh, how dare them.
Damn.
But it's okay. It's whatever.
Anyway, so my first experience of watching you was you in the middle of this fucking crowd, and you have like this whole art installation going off. Like, I don't know if it's tuned to your beats or I don't know how the project worked out, but
might have been programmed. I'm
probably
sure.
programmed.
Right.
No, a lot of it was
it
happening in
live?
real time.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus
No
Christ.
way.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was insane. But I
Hey,
also...
Julian, I'm gonna be annoying. I'm gonna go to the bathroom behind you, but
Oh.
please, this is why we can do this. This is
Okay,
our. This
so
is
I
our
can
show.
go off, like,
yeah,
all right.
continue. Do your
Tag
thing.
in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just-
so I'm going to stand up, and should I keep talking? No, I'm just...
No, keep
go
talking.
ahead.
This is our show. You do what we want.
So from then on, after having a fucking amazing time watching you, I looked you up, and I noticed that Lim doesn't necessarily seem to be kind of like just your alter ego as a stage persona or whatever. It seems to be like a brand almost. Like, you are producing, you're making visual like you're making videos. I don't know what's unique about the entire experience, because I saw you again over here at Madison, Maine, and I just feel like Lim is a lot about the experience and about like the visual components as it is about the music.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
what do you think? I don't.
Yeah. Well, was okay. So I was started making this electronic music, and it was in Fruity Loops actually.
Yeah.
I think I like Fruity Loops.
I remember
2
fucking
or
with Fruity Loops
something.
back in like 2005.
Yeah, and I was like, I would stay up for fucking hours. I finally got a computer,
Right.
and I would stay up, and that's when I knew. I was like, oh, there's something about this that like my body is like, in my mind, I'm just like this. I love this. This is killing me. I love this. So I started working on it. By the end of the night, it started falling apart. So I was like, well, I got this thing. I can try to like
Still being
figure out how to
creative,
do this
still wanna-
on my own,
Yeah.
And so I think I don't remember where Lim came from, to be honest.
I always was that an acronym? I always like wonder.
No.
Fuck,
I don't even remember. But
well, it fucking work. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
tight
yeah.
name.
but so I started doing it on my own, and had like hardware limitations and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn how to do the whole, because all of a sudden I'm learning a new instrument and how to play with it live, and it was really a challenge at first. And I knew, I was like, okay, I'd been to see some electronic music acts, and I was like, this shit is boring as
Yeah.
fuck to watch. And I was like, and it says nothing about how because I love the music, but I'm
Right.
like, I can't watch this shit. Like, who can come watch this? Why would you be here, man?
For the longest time, the representation of electronic music was like EDM or like
yeah,
dubstep.
yeah,
or,
yeah,
or,
yeah.
you
And
know.
I knew that wasn't true because I knew there were a lot of really smart people
Still
making
kinda
really
remains that
smart
way.
music, and so I was like, all right, cool. Well, what do I like about Violence Tonight and how to do that? And so like I love the erratic bits about it, so I tried to do that on my own, and then pulling that off live was just kind of a challenge to like.
Right, because the concept changed too, though, right? You were started kind of drum trigger based.
No. I started off just like, man, I was totally like in Ableton you could do like I couldn't afford MIDI controllers at the time, right? So like Ableton had a key mapping function, so I had a keyboard, and if you hit caps, you have a whole new set of ASCII keys. So you have like a fucking crazy keyboard.
So
right?
but to catch it, what does that even mean to people who don't know what you're talking about? To
Like,
non-musicians.
Like okay, so in Ableton you're allowed to use your keyboard to map stuff onto the
Noises,
user interface,
anything
whatever you want,
right.
or you can set up clips and you can clips of sound and you can use that to trigger it. And I didn't have like a cool like a grid pad to touch on, so I was like, "Fuck, what?"
So you're just doing it on your Mac
on my
keyboard?
Mac, and I color coded it all, and I had to look at little cheap little external controllers, and I color coded it all with stickers and shit. And you can also hit caps, and you have a whole new set of characters. So it's like quite a big grid of stuff. So I had that, and I had some old guitar pedals that I still had, and I got some cheap little keyboards.
So you didn't have the Ableton Launchpad? You were just playing on the. You essentially made your keyboard into the Launchpad.
Yeah, because it was like those things weren't cheap yet,
right?
You know, the Launchpad wasn't out for sure.
Yeah.
But so then I routed all that through my my guitar pedals because at the time I was like, well, I know that I like this shit loud, and I know I like it fucking noisy, because again, it's part of like music should still be like visceral.
Yeah.
Like I want the highs to be shrill. I want the lows to be nasty. I want it to like, like that's what I wanted. So like, I built, and I couldn't afford PA, and I fucking learned from being in Violence Tonight for so long. Like you can't rely on a sound guy to give you the volume you want.
Nope.
So I didn't have a PA. So I on tour actually these guys. Luckily we had a trailer. These guys gave me a bunch of old broken PAs. So I took all that home and I broke it all into parts and found the speakers that worked and took the crossovers and then made my own speaker cabs out of it. And so, and then that's how I played in Limb like that for a while. And then Limb slowly turned into, for a short while, Limb turned into a three-piece with Casey Barrage and Joshua Cordova. We put out a record called Shape of Punk for Some, which is like a funny play on a play, which is a play on Refuse Shape of Punk to Come, and which is a play off of Ornette Coleman's The Shape of Punk, or Shape of Jazz to Come. So
wow, super meta.
Yeah. which is part of what was funny, like it's a play on a play, and that's also like the not taking any of it seriously. It's like this shape of, I mean, if you think so, but whatever. We wrote this record with three guys. And because when you're making electronic music, especially at the times I didn't know how to do it the way, you're just kind of a slave to this loop. Like you're just kind of like, you just kind of have to like program the computer to like run through certain hoops that you set up, and then you can like make adjustments along the way in order to juggle everything.
To add more people.
Well, yeah, so add more people, and then you can like kind of get. I still wanted to fuck with computers, you know, so we could still have this kind of fluid vibe. So let's get a live drummer in there so we can kind of like, he can be, if he slows down, we slow down, with speeds up. If we want to go to a complete new erratic part out of nowhere, if he messes up and we need to go along, like we can have all those. And that was like eye-opening for me, and I really liked that. That just kind of naturally fell apart too after some time. And so I wanted to do it on my own, and I was like, man, I can't go back to just like pushing buttons and spinning knobs. Like this is lame, you know? Like I don't want to be that kind of player. And so I was like, okay, well, I've always wanted to learn to play drums, so I got drums, and I was like, well, it's got to be a way where I can play the drums and it be like a MIDI controller, like where I can like play it, and then like the way I play changes how the computer reacts to me.
Drum triggers.
So I put drum triggers on it, and then I taught myself how to play it, which was kind of fun and cool because I learned how to play drums like it was a keyboard. You know what I'm saying? So I would have like a certain instrument gated to my snare, and I would only play my snare when I needed that keyboard part to come in, and like I never thought of the snare as like, oh, it's keeping the
Right.
the 3 or whatever, you know, it's or it's like I never thought of my kick as like needing to help keep a beat. It was like the kick is only responsible for bringing in, say, a bass that I had gated to it. And so, and then that way it was because that's what I missed when I was doing this. I was like, man, I miss fucking sweating. I miss like the, you know, by the night there was the fun of like trying to write the crazy stuff that we could, but it was also like, let's go the fucking craziest so we can go on stage.
You didn't
right?
want to feel like a DJ.
Right.
You didn't want to feel like you're pressing buttons.
And like, and not to like, you know, every culture has its thing that they
That's
like,
cool.
and everyone has. But I was like, I don't like that shit. I don't want to do that.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. It wasn't because I grew up with Vine's Night in this music, and I was like, it's got to be like this, or at least parts of it have to be like this for me, because this is why I like music. Is because it's
How do I make this heavy? How to make this visceral?
How do I?
Rock?
Yeah,
like,
but also I was getting into like, I like house music. I like deep house.
I wanted
was
to
like
dance,
in like
to jam,
dub.
yeah.
I was like in all kinds of stuff. I like a groove. I like to dance, and so I was like, how do I like?
But drums,
make all that
drums. A
together?
lot of people would think like, oh, I'll just put a thing in front of me and have a controller and a launch pad and I'll just have a guitar.
Yeah.
And I'll have the beat going. But for you to come like, well, from the place of wanting to keep the beat is very kind of like, I feel like that's not the most intuitive thing to do, you know, especially if you're I didn't realize that you would learn drums that way. I thought you already knew how to play drums.
No, I learned it that way. I mean, I did a little bit of drumming in Balance Night,
Right.
just like auxiliary drums to Jeff. But it was really like, it was the same thing I was explaining earlier. Jeff would be like, hey, I got this auxiliary part. Can you play it? And he would just teach it to me.
Well, most people would be
And
like,
so-
I'm just going to get a backbeat going, get that loop going, and
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
can play over the
Yeah.
loop. I can get a guitar, I can loop the like. But
I
for you to
wanted
be
to
like,
break out of that.
the hardest thing to do is
Yeah.
to play the drums. Like
Yeah.
it's like, well, I'll just play the beat and do everything after
Yeah.
that.
Which got me really good quick, because like I had to play to a loop.
Yeah.
And the thing about a loop is it's not
Yeah.
forgiving. Like it's
Not
not
at
gonna
all.
slow down if you fuck up. So I
You're
would,
learning
like,
to a click.
Yeah, and probably early limb stuff with the drums was, I mean, it's probably embarrassing to watch. I haven't watched it on, but you know, like, because I wasn't a great drummer just trying to
Right.
do this thing, but also like, I think that shit's badass. Like, I think that shit's fucking cool. Like, I wish more artists that I admire kept a history. Like, I could
Yeah.
find that history. I could find them when they sucked.
Yeah.
Like, I could
Yeah,
find
I
them
feel
when
that.
they were like, we're trying. Again, like you guys could find, if someone like down the road, you guys get famous and like they're like, what's that early podcast with the fucking lawnmower starts going off and like they forget to record the shit. Like that's the shit that's cool to me. I think that sounds really cool.
yeah,
It's
So
part of
I
it,
feel
man.
that.
It's
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
it. But so, do you ever incorporate the drums anymore and everything?
well, you know, yeah, I want to. I'm recording a drum record right now.
Because what do you play with right now? You're playing with like a.
Well, I haven't been really playing a lot. I started a business with my buddy Jeremy,
Oh.
and it's we shoot an edit video. We also do graphic animation, so that's
Cool.
taking up a lot of my time, and I have a kid. Kid takes up a lot of
I
my
know,
time.
that's
So
awesome.
like, and also, man, I've been doing this for a long time. Like, I mean, it pains me to say it, but I can't afford to like roll up and play a show for like, you know, $100 or less.
No,
Like, I
yeah,
just can't
right. I
afford
feel
that
you.
out of my time. So like, I'm not playing as much, and like, so it's long story short. Like, so I haven't done the drum thing since Date for Night. And I actually, Day for Night, I chose to do push buttons, spin knobs bit because, first of all, I was doing the octaphonic sound, and I was controlling a lot of that in real time. So I was like controlling where sounds were being flung around,
Yeah.
and how fast they were flinging around, and all this stuff. And so like I just was like, I can't fucking play drums and do all this at the same time. Like, this is insane. Like, I can't keep my head on straight. Plus, I'm gonna be nervous as fuck to play this show. So
Well, that was a
And-
really cool set, though, man, because I feel like it kind of, for me, reframed you as an artist, because it made me realize, like, oh, this could be a visual thing, too. Like, this could easily be something that you're in, you know, because one thing I love about Day for Night as an event is that not only that they have art and music at the same time, and you have stuff to look at when, you know, you're not listening to music, and that they give a place for artists to, you know, display their work, but that the art that they're displaying is this, like, massive sometimes warehouse size installations.
Right.
So instead of like, let's have both these things, like let's have them both at the same time as well. And yours was probably the only true meeting of those two mediums. And it made me realize, man, this is perfect. Like, this is perfect for him. This is perfect for like this kind of art. So it elevated, I think, what you're doing in a lot of ways. So I think it's awesome to hear that, you've maybe limited yourself to doing these bigger things that are, because that showed me like this is a big thing. This is an art installation. Whenever you're playing, especially if you want to incorporate, I don't know if you want to, more things like that.
Yeah,
I would hope that you would.
That's part of it too. Is like not having the time, because I'm a manic fucking person. So like, and it, honestly, to me, like, I know my life is short, and I can't even imagine how short it could realistically be. And like, I'm not gonna spin my wheels doing the same shit for that very long. So like, after by the tonight ended, I was like, you know what? I don't need to drug, because we did that for like 11 years, man, or something, and then it just flopped. It didn't flop. I learned a lot. You know what I mean? It was like really important time for me, but it was like, I'm not gonna roll on anything for 11 years ever again. So like, I did the drum thing for like, I don't know, couple years, and then I just need to do something different. As much as I love doing this, I was like, I gotta. And Day for Night came, and I knew that it was like a lot of kind of producers, kind of like, again, guys up there pushing buttons, spinning knobs, and I loved most of them. Heroes, Bjork and Apexton were like fucking childhood heroes to me. It was like, so I was like, I gotta be on this bill, and like, and I gotta make a big impression. And I knew that I was getting a chance to have an installation and do something upstairs. So I was like, all right, cool. And I looked at the work that people were making there, and I was like, all right, this stuff is beautiful and rad. All right, but one thing I feel like it's missing is again, I grew up being a painter and an artist. So like, and one thing I really hated about art is that art world is really very much like, hey man, no, like, you stay back
it's not
from
inclusive
the art.
at all.
It's not very welcoming. And so I was looking at that work. It's like, it wasn't that, because you felt immersed sonically in it. You were kind of in the middle of it, but you were still like, hey,
you're not a part of it.
Yeah, you get to kind of walk through this kind of beautiful, noisy, like beautifully lit hallway, and that's what you get to do. And I was like, well, I know the people are coming to this show wanting like bangers. They want to like, they want like the fucking bangers. But they also want to come see the beautiful stuff. And I was like, man, this really goes against my grain, to like do this. But I was like, I'm gonna do my fucking best to write like dance music for this, And I want, because I knew I was gonna be upstairs with all these, and like, I mean this, with all these other pieces, it weren't very much like visceral and like and like very welcoming, and so like I wanted to have that, and so I was like,
a bunch of drunk people on Molly too.
Yeah, and I had also been working on this octaphonic stuff and like trying to figure out how to do that, and then like I was like, I don't know how I'll be able to afford this in Day for Night land, and I was like, all right, cool, I want it. All right, that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a circle around everyone, so there's not like a stage and like people on stage, and there's a crowd but under the stage, and there's a bunch of speakers, and it's like, scrap that stage in the round. I want speakers load around so you can physically feel like it's around you. And I almost was pitching that it would be in complete darkness. I was like, I want everyone to fill in the room, and I want lights fucking out. You can't see the person next to you. You just hear. That's all. And then like, that's it. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh, the lights were great though.
Yeah, no, the lights worked out, and so ended up hooking up with Eric Todd and Daniel Schaefer, and I was like, okay, we got to do something. I don't know what it's gonna be, but again, like, the same thing. I was like, I don't want this like EDM stage kind of vibe. You know what I mean? Like, but I want something different, and I want it to be a little. I want it to be kind of what's the word? Like
intimate or
nah? Well, intimate, of course, too. That's what I'm getting at as well. But also like unassuming at first, right? So like, again, that's when we're like, with walking around in there, and I was lucky enough to be from Houston, so I got to like walk around the space and be like, what are we gonna do? And then the lights occurred to me, and so that's the place we went, is we just like, the fluorescent fixtures are already there, let's fucking like put some wild shit in there. and then, you know, it would just be like a show, and then all of a sudden the fucking fluorescents will just start going ham on everybody. And I also knew, like, I don't want a fucking stage. I want in the thick, and I want, like, everyone around. And, like, it's probably stupid, you know, because of equipment and stuff, but it's like I know, and I know that probably most people don't know this about themselves or don't, you know, but I know that you want that. You don't want to be on, because you just don't know that any other way. That's just like the fucking kind of performance that's been fed to you since the 70s, right? Since fucking Kiss or whatever, or even older than that. But it's just like
something
there's
you know
a fucking stage, there's a line array, and then they're blasting it at you, and you got to look at them. And that's fucking boring, and that's why Kiss has to dress up like the way they do, is because, you know, it's like constantly trying to find ways to make it
super
not
powerful.
boring, but it's always going to be boring because that's what you got.
Exactly.
All you stand there and you look. If you can, if you are insecure about boogieing, then you dance. But like other than that, so I think people want that. Like
that whole idea
want to
came
feel
together,
my
man.
heat. They want to feel my sweat. They want, as soon as like I feel like I learned that in By Night because that's what we would do. We'd always play it on the floor, and we always went fucking ham. We always ran out into the crowd, and we always like antics. And I think that people probably like the music, but I also think people like to come and be like, I don't know what's gonna happen tonight. Like, I don't know if like, and I remember like, because I had the bass, so like my neck was like that, and like I've taken people out with it, you know, and like felt terrible about it, but never has anyone been mad at me. Yeah, they loved it. Like, and that was so crazy to me. It's like they just, and like, of course they don't like being whacked in the face by a fucking bass neck, but what they do like is that like the show is thrilling. The show is it's unpredictable. The show is like, you might even have a fucking part.
Well, there's a certain level of involvement. You're involved in it. You're a part of it.
Yeah. It's just a memory. I have a chipped tooth from a Leftover Crack show that I'll always carry.
Yeah, I bet. Fuck yeah. That was another band, Leftover Crack, Choking Victim and shit. We liked in high school.
I got so fucked up at the Choking Victim show this past November. We went to Dallas to go see them.
Yeah.
Man, I got like
that trash.
About 3 or 4 songs in before I just blacked out. Don't really remember anything. Broke my glasses, sprained my ankle.
My favorite hat stomped out.
Me too. Ruined my hat. I had to get another one. It was bad, but it was great.
It was great.
It was great.
Yeah, great.
But I know for a lot of people, man, that set ended up being the highlight of that weekend.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Like your set was like, I mean, and I think it maybe was just kind of the meeting of all of those things that Day for Night brings to people. Is like, you know, music is. Well, what do you like about festivals? Is that you are around people. You're listening to a lot of music, and it is kind of like that sweat, that gnarliness of it.
Yeah.
They were right there next to you. You know? Like, and I was like, this is I walked up, and I couldn't get close at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like, what is...
I got to fish out that phone. I had recorded some shit on my phone. That was just insane. Like, I remember, because I went up there looking for you. I was like, oh, okay, where is he going to be? I figured he was going to be on stage or something like that. And I saw his lights going off, like all crazy and shit, like in a room. I didn't expect that. And I walked up and I realized it was you, and I was just like, "Fuck, this is insane." I remember seeing my friends; they're just like, "This is fucking insane."
Are you trying to do that consistently if you do play shows from now on, though?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Again, it's it's an expensive endeavor, right?
Sure.
Like, I've tried to think about ways to set up even the Octa thing again, and it's just expensive.
It's big.
And like, it's big, and it's a big rental for a lot of that. We own a lot of the lights now. But, you know, even just renting the sound is going to cost us like $3 or $4 grand. And then, you know, man, in Houston, like, I think to make my money back, I'd have to be $20 tickets, and like,
that's almost impossible to do.
Yeah, it's really impossible to get people to come out for that kind of money. And but I'm trying to think of new, and again, this is like, that's my new passion. Like, that's a real big passion for me. It's like I've broken open, because I've been doing graphic animation for a while and 3D animation, and like, I'm like, cool, I can start incorporating this stuff as live visuals in my set, but I've never felt like I was able to land something that I felt good about, because I was like, all right, cool, I can just throw up fucking visuals of things behind me like people do, because, you know, but I was like, that's not enough. Like, it's not enough. Like,
have you ever thought about having like a gallery like set up, like having your music play behind anything you might?
I've been tossing around some ideas,
like an exhibition, you know, something that's a little more permanent.
Yeah.
that can sit there, because I know shows are instances, it's one instance of you playing
Yeah,
something.
which is the magic about it, right?
It's the magic, but it can also, I feel like, be maybe the downfall of it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't the picture I wanted to paint, or that
Yeah,
wasn't
And
the sound didn't come out this way, or
right. And I'm thinking about it in terms like that. Like I have a couple install ideas that I'm working on, and again, Day for Night was eye-opening to me, because it made a lot of things that I was trying to get good at, and really bridge the gap between the things I was already good at and the things I was trying to get good at, and figure out how to marry those. Like hardware, like fucking with hardware, like whatever that is, motors or LEDs or whatever that is, and graphic processing. I was already doing graphic processing stuff and learning how to do that, and I was like, I just don't want to fucking throw something on the screen behind me, but I could use that stuff to do other things. And so
you're just going for it.
Yeah, and so now I'm like, all right, well, I think the way I'd want to look at it now is, I'm trying to look at it now is I would do, have something that would be up for like a month, and then do like a couple performances every now and then in it. It would be, but it could also work. Again, the Octa set kind of worked the same way. It was really hard to get that it was reactive when it started filling up with people.
Right.
But if there were like 3 or 4 people were in there, it could have stood on as an installation on its own, and it was like we made that thing to be like an instrument per se. So wherever you walked in the space, it would affect the sound that it was making, and also the lights would react to wherever that each individual person was placed.
I didn't realize that it was that.
Yeah. So you were tracked by the lights above you. There's connects up there, and they were tracked. So wherever you would walk, you would change how the animations and the lights would react and would follow you. Also, the sound would follow you wherever you went, and each light was essentially like a different version of a couple different things we made. So it was like, it would have like, I think we had 4 different modes that it would switch through, and each mode, each light had a different sort of variation.
Right.
So you could run through and play it.
But so
like
what
an
does
instrument.
happen when it's filled up with people?
It just, it just recognizes a bunch of different blobs and tracks, so it just
going
kind
crazy.
of goes crazy.
God, no wonder it was so immersive. I knew it was either programming or some shit going on there. I just felt like it was going off.
So what's next for you, or for Lim, or for anything? I mean, just creatively, what's next for you?
Well, I'm man, it's funny. I don't really think about Lim a whole lot lately.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fine.
It's just I get exhausted playing, man, because it's
got
hard.
It's
hard.
A child too. That's real.
I got a child too, but it's when I play, man, it's hard for me. I still get nervous, Like I still feel all the same things everyone feels. Everyone's gonna think I'm a fraud. Everyone's gonna think that like I'm an amateur. Everyone's gonna think that I suck. Everyone's gonna think my new songs are lame. Everything that people say, and I always felt that. And by the end of tonight, the whole time, all the way through. And one way that I get through that is that I just tell myself, well, if I just give myself like 100%, if I can just give everything that I have at any given moment, just like the week, what did the week make me feel like? What terrible things happened to me? What like wonderful things happened to me? What's the last thing that I read that inspired me? What's the last whatever? And I just like consume all of that for a night, and it just like fucking explode. And like that's what I have to do every time I play. And when you do that like once a week or twice a week or even once a month, and it's fucking exhausting. And like I got a kid now, and I just can't like go out there and do all that shit for nothing, and so again, I'm trying to think of how to do this stuff in the long term. And plus, like I'm manic, and so like I'm into this other stuff now.
Yeah,
and
I
I
feel
want to
you.
do this other things, and like for the first time, this graphic animation stuff and like this animation shit that I've been learning for the past like 3 years is the first like artistic endeavor that's paying my bills.
Really?
So I'm like,
Oh,
fucking right. Like let's get good
Let's
at
do
this.
this,
'Cause,
yeah.
let's do this thing. Let's like this, and then
Are you like kind of freelancing, or how is that?
yeah. So I and my friend Jeremy Barber own this company called Dino Lion. It's a dinosaur lion. So
Cool.
And so it started off is actually the first Lim video, that Evil Heart video. No, that was the first one was Smooth Boy video that I actually did with with Chris Patterson. But the next one I did with Jeremy, and it was my first video project. The second one I ever worked on, Smooth Boy, was the first, but it was the first one I really worked in depth, and I edited that myself, learning how to edit, and I just liked it because it was very similar to the way I make electronic music. I just I take a source and I chop it, and paste it, and stretch it, and just make it malleable. And Jeremy had been doing this video editing stuff and shooting editing video for, I don't know, 10 years or something. And
I think I've seen it. It's on your website, right? Or
I have. Yeah. I've posted some stuff. And then Jeremy was asked me if I wanted to start a company with him, and I was like, "Oh, I've worked on one project with you." Cool. And he just had this crazy faith in me, and he was like, "I just think you're going to be pretty good at this." And so, I was just about to have a kid, and that just lit a fire under me. And I was doing the work I was doing before. I was like, I don't fucking like this. If I'm gonna turn 90 on something, it's got to be right now. So I did it, and I joined him, and I fucking man, I just a ton of tutorials down the road, and I learned how to do this stuff, and it's starting to pay, and I think it's good enough that people keep coming back. So
then what are the goals for this down the line?
Well, Dynaline is trying to either transition or make an addition to what it can do, and that being immersive productions, right? So I'm also getting really quite into theater and especially immersive theater. Yeah. And so we tried to do our own immersive theater just recently called Red House, where we and it was actually we've done some smaller kind of immersive stuff.
What do you mean? What is an immersive theater?
Okay,
breaking the fourth wall,
like Meow Wolf.
A lot like Meow Wolf, but Meow Wolf Meow Wolf is obviously on a huger scale, and the narrative is not so available, right? It's kind of fucking entrenched and really deep. So we essentially put on a 2-hour play in our house. I gutted out my entire house except for the center, where we had the Octa system that I made for Day for Night, and we drilled holes in the ceilings and wired speakers throughout the whole house. And then hid all the speakers in the house. So, what normally it felt even more immersive than the circle, because it would feel like it was passing through walls.
Holy
it felt
shit!
Insane.
That is crazy.
So. And then I was in a band called Black Kite with Vicky Tippett.
Yeah.
She's now kind of does a lot of that on her own. But so we took that record that she wrote, and we just kind of broke it down into this narrative, and largely is kind of true story about her life, because she writes about her life and her past and in these songs. And then so we broke those songs down and adapted to the system, and then brought in a couple players. Tony, I forget Tony's last name. Tony, and then Chris and Kathy. I don't know their last name. Some other great musicians who have played in theater here in Houston, Catastrophic, and other sorts of things. I'm not really entrenched in the theater world, so I don't know a lot about this stuff. But they sort of did Tony played piano, and then we had Chris played double bass.
You just made a production,
and then we had a huge theater production throughout the whole house. And then Vicky would sing, and she would move through the whole house, and it was about a family. So you would walk into the house of this Jehovah's Witness family and just experience them in a life. So they would just be making dinner, cooking dinner, preparing dinner, and then going upstairs and sleeping, taking a bath, and all this stuff. And again, there's an underlying story that's sort of happening, a really dark story. And then in order to experience this, you have to move through the whole house. You have to follow them, and then at certain times they might interact with you and take you into have a one-on-one and a dialogue with you, and
Did I love shit like this so much?
Yes.
It's like a living video game, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Meow Wolf is a perfect example.
It's like VR, but not.
It's it really is.
You know what? I think of it as the antithesis of VR. As cool as I think VR technology is, I think it's really kind of terrifying, right? It's fiction is a way to help you. I think in a really important way thing that fiction does is really help us understand the real world in ways the real world isn't so apparently like understandable, right?
Yeah.
So like it takes like a different context to explain something to you, right? Like people have been telling stories like that forever.
But
So
VR is trying to make
VR
it
is like
real.
an escapist,
Right.
right? It's just
Yeah.
like it's pulling you out of the real world. It doesn't say anything about the real world, or as far as I can tell. Who
But
knows?
that's
what
why.
happens
But
to it
that's
down
why I
the road.
like it for a Star Wars game.
Yeah, sorry.
Or,
Yeah,
you
like
know.
trying to go with the whole imaginary like story
Then
that's
it's
never gonna
perfect.
happen in real life. And
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's neat for sure. But imagine that world was physically around you.
Right.
Imagine
like
that.
if there was a Second Life
Absolutely.
VR, you wouldn't want that.
Well, that'd be
shit.
creepy.
Yeah,
That'd be creepy.
yeah. But imagine and I like, cause I like this kind of theater because it is allowed to be immersive, but it also allows you to pulls you into
Yeah.
the real world.
It's also as fluid as it can be because it is real. It's
yeah,
not all
it
like
is. Yeah, and the emotions that you want to feel when you go see an entertainment thing, you want to be scared, you want to feel awkward, you want to feel embarrassed, you want to feel joy, you want to feel like all that is like heightened because that person is touching you.
Yeah.
Is like really next to you. Is really like, you could be in some immersive pieces are like this where like it doesn't exist. The story can't go on without you being in the space. So like your physical presence in the space
Required.
dictates whether the story goes left or right or up
Oh,
or
I see what
down
you're
or
saying.
whatever, you know. And so
damn.
that stuff is like I think pretty fascinating.
It's
and
extremely
cool.
fascinating. It's also
And-
very hard to write.
Yeah, I was gonna say from
Yeah.
my perspective, how do you like, go into like?
It's
I mean,
very,
you have to
very
have
hard to
all
write.
these
Yeah.
different possibilities mapped out, right?
It's super impressive that you got all these kinds of different things going on, man.
Yeah.
And then they're all kind of covering these different fields, and I don't know. That's very inspiring, knowing that you did come from this, like, I'm in a math rock band thing, and now you're doing all this crazy weird stuff, and I feel like that's where a lot of people are with their lives now, and they're wondering if it's okay, and if it's like, if it's a weird thing, because again, it can be hard to be fluid with your art and be different with it and shift and take a
Yeah.
decision when you
It's
should
also
change
scary
it.
to pivot into a
Yeah.
new
Yeah,
genre or
right.
something.
100% true.
So one of the last things, because we should probably wrap it up, that I'll ask you is what do you kind of maintain? Because I feel like you're at a good moment right now creatively and in your life. You've got a great kid and you've got all this great stuff going on, and I mean I just came back from Meow Wolf like a month ago. So you saying that, I was like, holy shit, this sounds like
I've never
Meow
actually
Wolf.
got this. I haven't seen
You
Meow
should-
Wolf yet.
oh,
Yeah,
God, it's insane.
I got to
mean,
meet those guys here pretty recently.
I'm just recently become fascinated with that kind of stuff. So it's
Yeah.
super cool to hear that you're diving into that. So just kind of feeling that you're in a really awesome place creatively. What do you do, or what has been your answer to the pushback of this doesn't make sense, or I shouldn't do this? What keeps you going into that weird kind of creative place that we were talking about earlier, that kind of irrational pursuit?
Yeah.
What is that for you? What helps you?
So, man, I'm kind of a fool, man. Like, that's why I kind of really love the sentiment irrational. What is the term?
Irrational pursuit is
irrational
what Volcom
pursuit,
says,
right? Like,
yeah.
I love that because, like, I still approach everything I've ever done the same way I used to do it with By This Night. Oh, absolutely. As soon as I meet something that I don't understand, I'm like, fuck that. Like, I'm going to learn how to do this. Like, I'm just I didn't know how to tap on the
When it
guitar.
doesn't
So,
make
like,
sense,
fuck that.
yeah.
No one said, like, it's not supposed to tap on the bass, but fuck, I want to do
Why not?
it. So, like, I'm going
Yeah.
to do it. And then, as soon as there's something that I don't understand that feels like magic to me, as soon as I'm, like, enticed, I'm like, again, it's foolish. I'm like
Zone in.
that's what I gotta fucking do. And like I have to be extra careful about it now because I have a kid, because I can't just go down this.
The stakes are higher.
Stakes are higher, but I still am the same way, and it's worked so far, and that's why I keep doing it. And it's really kind of like and all that stuff is still there. Like, am I doing this right? Is this the right way to do it? Is this a
There's
foolish
always
way to do
that
it? Do people think I'm
reluctance.
stupid? Or like all these things, and like that shit is always there, always there.
So it never goes away.
Never goes away, man. But you just find different ways to talk to yourself about how to do stuff. And like, so I remember when I was a kid drawing, I used to draw with a pencil, and I used to get so mad at myself when I would want to draw. I would try to draw things like as picture perfect as I could get, and I was, and I was getting better. I was getting better, but as soon as I just couldn't fucking nail it, like I would do crazy irrational things where I would stab the paper and like want to stab myself and like be so mad at myself because I couldn't fucking get it, and I would erase it, and the erase mark would be there, and I'd be like, fuck, and I'm like,
I feel that.
and then one day I just fucking tossed the pencil, and I started writing with a big pen. And still to this day, my favorite thing to draw and or write with is just like a shit big pen. But and then from then on, it was like, you can't erase, motherfucker. Like, you can't erase, dude. So, like, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? And what I'm going to do and what I learned to do is, like, man, don't be hard on yourself if you make a mistake. It's not about you. Like, you just didn't get it. Like, so what? Like, just try again. Or don't do that realism stuff. Fuck the realism stuff. You don't, if it turns you into a person who hates themselves, don't do that thing. Find the thing that, like, regardless of what anyone else fucking thinks about the shit you make, you feel at home and good at it. Like when I got my computer and I started fucking with Fruit Loops, and you could not pull me away from it. I was like, this is what I want to do. I don't fucking care what anyone else thinks. And if I just sat there for long enough, I'd get pretty fucking good at that thing, right? And like, and then, but it's like, my friend Austin Smith turned me on to, and it's, I guess, a popular book for artists who are like really asking themselves the same questions. I think it's called like The Art of War or The War of Art or something. You know this book, right?
Lao Tzu, isn't he? Is that the?
I can't remember, man. I've only listened to it on tape, right? But the narrative, it's real kind of corny the way it's structured and the way he talks. But he said one thing that has rung with me ever since, and he's like, he makes a distinction between the amateur and the professional. And this is part of the bit that's all gross about it, is like, you're only so valuable as like the successes that you make, right? This is sort of like the cornerstone of it, right?
Yeah. Which is such bullshit.
Which I think is bullshit too, but he says one thing. He says that the thing that separates amateur from the professional is the professional doesn't define themselves by their failures, by their work. And my thing is, I've always defined myself by my work. Always. 100%. Like, I am my work. And, like, that's how I've always... And until I had a kid, I never defined myself by any other way. Always the work I had made. Like, I always... Even as a kid, I was like, oh, girls started liking me because, like, my music is awesome, right? Like, that was my whole fucking shtick. Like, I always, like, banked on, like... Again, like, when I was a kid and I was drawing and all the adults thought that was great. It's like, oh, cool. This is how you get liked. You just keep doing this thing that you're good at. But so I've always defined myself by my work, like in a really, really intense and probably unhealthy way. And then I heard that, and I also have been struggling with it at work because I have clients now, where I do something creative that I think is awesome, and they're like, I don't really like the way that looks, and I'm like, well, you're a fool.
You're wrong.
Yeah, you're fucking wrong. Right? And I take it personally because I'm like, that's good. Because I jostle with it in my mind and I am attached to the ideas that I made. That's me. And so learning that helped me a lot in my work because I can put my heart into something, because that's what it takes to make something good.
To make it honestly.
To make it honestly,
right.
So that you're proud of. Yeah, to make it genuine and be honest. So I could do that, but as soon as they said it wasn't good, or as soon as I failed, I could just be like, I'm still awesome just because you don't like it. Okay, I'll just change it. Sorry. Yeah. Or like, I'm still awesome even if I failed at that. I'll get it eventually. Like, it's like, I know how hard it is to want to just like hate yourself because you can't learn something. Like, man, I face that so much because I'm so manic. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always like, as soon as I don't know something, it's magic, and I want to learn how to do it. And then I face the fact that I'm not smart enough yet for it, and then I'm depressed, like really fucking depressed.
And then you don't want to stay there.
And then I'm like, but I want to learn it. And then I fucking push and I push and I look up tutorial, and I'm like a fucking zombie in my room at night watching tutorials, watching shit, trying to fucking figure it out. And I still don't get it. And I'll shift and I'll go to something else that it starts making sense and I'm good at, just for a relief. Finally, something that I'm good at. Let me just do that. And then maybe like a week passes, maybe 2 years pass, and I finally get that other thing. And I'm like, oh, because I'm learning this other stuff. I'm like, fuck.
Stop giving a
get-"
shit.
And I stopped like whatever, and I finally get it, and it's like, oh, I just needed some fucking time.
Yeah.
Like beating myself up and hating myself, or like wondering whether anyone thought it was good or worthwhile. Like fuck, I don't know.
So what I can take from that is that, because for me it looks like you make it look easy. You do from the outside, and clearly just by talking to you, it doesn't get any easier. Being creative, evolving your ideas, trying to be an artist, trying to scratch that itch. It doesn't get any easier. It just changes. If anything, it gets harder. It gets added on. That's what I've learned. I mean, I've learned talking to a lot of people through this Vulcan thing. They're telling me, I asked a lot of these like board members. I was like, so what happens now that you're like part of this company that you love? And they're like, well, I can tell you it doesn't get any easier. Things just shift. If anything, it just gets harder. The stakes get higher.
Yeah.
So it's if I can, tell you anything, is that you're at the very least pulling it off. Everything that you're putting out, that you're creatively a part of, is going off without a hitch. You make it look effortless. Yeah. The Day for Night thing was kind of, like I said, elevated you to a new level for me. I felt like that. Well, shit, this is what he's got to do now. Mm-hmm. Anything less than this, I'm sorry. So you're continuing to inspire, and this is. It's been great talking to you, man. I've been wanting to do it for a long time for a reason, because I know you've got a lot of shit to say, and I had no idea you were working on this much though. So man, I wish we had more time.
I feel like I came unprepared. Like fuck, I wish I was more updated on what you're up to, so I can ask you more about it.
But again, thanks for coming on and talking to us. It means a lot, and I'm just so excited to see what you got next. Even if it takes 15, 20 years, 25 years, just take your time, because now I know that you're doing it from the best place you could be doing it, So, and I know you've also totally given some awesome advice to people that are in similar spots, because I think that's one of the misconceptions, is that as a person that's trying to be creative and do what you want, and even if what we're doing isn't necessarily creative in a lot of ways, we just like to interview people and get to this. We get to like to get to this place with them, and obviously we have to build this shit.
But it's like an organism. Like everyone's got their place. In all this.
But everybody, I think the misconception is that there's a certain place where you get over this hill and then it becomes really easy for you, and then you're like, oh well, now it's all easy, and now it's just smooth sailing. And I've learned from everybody that's just bullshit. Total bullshit. It's totally bullshit. So I think that's at least what I'm maybe taking from this conversation the most, is that there's so much still going on, so much that you're still kind of struggling with, and maybe shaping your art and figuring out what it still is. And it's just great to hear that, knowing that it comes off quite effortlessly. When I hear it and listen to it and see it and experience it now, because now it's a thing that you can walk into. I feel like Lim is not even you anymore. It's just a fucking room. Lim is like a room now, basically. It's like a crazy person.
Go to whenever you want.
Yeah, let's go to Lim, dude.
That. Yeah.
It's like, what is it? It's like, well, Rob already is a band, Room 101. Our friend is Room 101, which is the room from, what is it, 1984? 1984.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I'm a crazy person.
For real.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man, 100%.
It means a lot.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, we learned something today. It's been awesome.
Did we?
Fuck, I just,